Hello world, and today on Nerdy Nihi, we will be discussing bagging and boarding comic books, the history behind it, and my personal preference. So, before we nerd out, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if not, and hopefully you find out something new. So, let's dive in, and let me put this down, because there's going to be presentation, as Megamind would say. But let's start off with the history of bagging and boarding. And a lot of the earlier starts to bagging or the creations of bags and boards are from hobbyists and merchants trying to preserve bags, because from the creation of comic books in the late 20s on the way up into the mid 60s, bagging wasn't really used other than like merchants using like Ziploc bags or shrink wrapping or something of the equivalent. So around, let me pull up this. It wasn't until Robert Bell, who advertised in comic books as far back as 1968 and had it to a catalog that if you bought it, he would send out a bag, which I will put right here, and that was generally the first bag widely available to consumers, and that was from 1968. Backboards wasn't really a thing back then. People would use like cardboard if they wanted to, or just leave it in the bag by itself. And it wasn't until like the mid 70s to 80s when the bags became more popular and, you know, standard in stores, and the same thing with backboards, the ones that we are commonly known to now, became associated in stores. And I found out this information digging up the comic book grading and CBSCCS discussion forums about this, since there's not a Wikipedia page about bagging and boarding. And I want to say special shout out to the dude for having the pictures for Robert Bell's bags and some of the catalog or comic book advertisements he had in comic books. But before we continue, I would like to say that this video is not a paid promotion. This is what I generally use because in my area, where in the South where I am from, every single local comic book shop has always offered almost out of spill BCW products. Yeah, since I reshot the video, it's not a sealed bag anymore, so have to be a little bit more careful. But also the same thing with the backboards. I do not have a sealed thing from them, but BCW, you can buy them from bulk, or generally your local comic book shop will have them. Depending on which one's the better deal for you, definitely get it from whichever place is possible. But I would say buying in bulk is generally better from BCW. So, before I continue into how to bag and board, there's a little demonstration from the first video I filmed that I feel like is really cool and fun, so let's cut to see that. So these are two backboards. The left side is the slicker side, and the right side is the back side or the more rough side. And here is a piece of charcoal. Now, for the demonstration, I'll start with the rough. Now, for the same on the slick side. Now, do you see the difference? I put the same amount of pressure on both. The right side, which is the back side, which is the part of the backboard you don't want to put, has a rougher back to it or texture to it, which will increase friction. while the left side, which is the side you want to have your comic book on, does not have enough texture or rough surface, so it allows your comic to slide on the backboard without taking as much damage. So let me go wash my hands and we will get into how to bag and board. Well, hopefully y'all didn't get bored while watching past me, and hopefully he was able to show y'all some cool things. This perspective with the light, and let me get it back to this. You can see the reflective side of the more glossy side, which reduces friction compared to the more paper looking side that's less reflective. But anyways, let's get into bagging and boarding. Now, a single bag looks like this. There are two sides if you open it up, one that has a lip. You're wanting to put the glossy side facing the side with the lip. I normally put in the corner first and then size it in and then shimmy it down. Shout out to ODB because shimmy yeah. Or yeah, I'm white. But anyways, now you have a bag and board. And for today's comic, since the one I used previously is right here, was Zod number 31. But to change it up, let's go with some splitting image with a nice Spawn parody back cover. Now, when putting in comics, I put in corner first, sort of the same as the bag. I push my finger so it pushes towards the bag, away from the board so it doesn't clip onto the paper, and then shimmy. And for taping, let's take a little break so I can grab something for demonstration. Alright, so I know this hasn't been real for you, but I just spent 20 minutes real time looking for my tape and then a permanent marker so the tape will be easier for y'all to see. But anyways, how to tape a bag and board comic in the same video because that's pretty much the same process. But fold down the back. Let me go ahead and take out this long piece of tape. Ta-da. Now, for example, it'll be hard for me to do, but easier for me to show. Because people like it like this. It is one of the better ways to prevent flapping on the ends. But it is also a larger area of tape. So when you pull out your comic, you're at more of a risk of snagging onto it, and that can lead to the tape pulling off. The same issue with the self-adhesives, but those are also cheaper in the long run because you don't have to buy tape. And ultimately, my preferences doesn't mean you have to do what I do. Whatever is more convenient for y'all and whatever style you would like to do, go for it. All means. A nerd community should not be a gatekeeping community. But a little tip when you do have tape like this. When you pull out the comic, make sure the lip is folded back closer to your fingers like so, and then start pulling your comic out. And that is the safest way. Any type, self-adhesive, tape, any format. But if you do tape it long ways or vertically, like so, that is one of the worst ways because you can get huge dog ears as such, or flaps and snagging when you put it in your box. And the way that I generally try to tape my comics, which I think is the least amount of tape used and the lesser surface areas on your comic would be to put it on like so, on one end closer to the sides, and then pull snug on the lip or the flap, push down on your tab and pull both ways, and got a bag and board comic. I guess I'll keep the tape, but what to do with this one? So yeah, that was a video about bagging and boarding comics. Hopefully you learned something or liked what you saw. And if you haven't bagged and boarded your comics beforehand, well, here's the reasons why. It could prevent water damage, bending, creasing of comics, especially if you're leaving them inside of a box, and double especially if you're leaving it outside of a box. With bags and boards, it helps prevent from scratching, from excessive bending, and you know, it's not a foolproof plan. One of the better ways to do that is slabbing and preserving a comic, but you can also achieve that with the archival and stuff. And also, I didn't mention this in the previous stuff, but places also offer different sizes of bags and boards. Like BCW, they have Golden Age, Silver Age, and Modern Age comics. If you saw in my bag, I use Silver Age because they hold up to what I can find more common and cheaply, and they also hold modern comics because those are just slightly smaller, just like the Silver Ages are slightly smaller than the Golden Ages. But anyways, hopefully y'all learned something, and thank you for nerding out with me. And hope y'all enjoy it. Keep on nerding out.